Hi guys, welcome back to Luke Ecker Woodworking. I'm Luke Ecker, and today I'll be giving you a 2018 shop tour. Let's get started. So here's my Grizzly wood lathe. The biggest you can turn between centers is 40 inches, and the deepest you can turn is 10. I have all of my turning chisels here for when I turn. It has a shelf. I have some of my lathe attachments here, and I have some blanks that I keep under the lathe. It has a cabinet here that I usually keep sandpaper in, and it also has the motor there. On-off switches here. The dial indicator for the RPMs is right here. And it also has this. This is the sanding sleeve that you put on here, and I have a pump behind the lathe, and all you do is pump it up, and when it inflates it holds the sandpaper on so you can sand. And you can also put disc sanders on it too. I have mine configured to a drum sander. You might have noticed that the lathe is in a different spot now. I measured between the box and the workbench, and I had about a ½ inch to 3/4 of play that can fit the lathe in here. So I swapped out the miter saw and the dust collector, and I put the lathe here so I have more room to get the miter saw out, because it was a bit of a hassle moving my table saw and moving my bandsaw just to make one cut on the miter saw. So that's why the lathe is right here. So here's my router table I made in a previous video. I'm planning on remaking this with a piece of melamine so it's perfectly flat all the way. I've noticed with this, since it's pine, it has a little bit of a bow in the middle, so when I route, it's not a consistent, even route. So I'm planning on getting a piece of melamine and making it wider so it's the end of this and still have the cleats in there. And I've added some support to so it doesn't bow as much. And here's my router in there. And as for the hole, I got a straight bit and freehanded that, so when I do raised panel doors, I have a big enough hole for that 3½ inch bit. But other than that, the router table works pretty well. So here's my Delta table saw. It's a contractor saw. It has a 3-position lock fence right here. And the depth adjustment for the blade is right here. And the angle for the blade is right here. And I also keep my miter gauge on this little T-track system right here. It's also on wheels, so I can move it around easy. So I usually pull it out to the middle of my garage to make all my cuts. And I also usually sand and spray some oil on the cast iron part to protect it. I have my Kreg K4 pocket hole jig screwed onto the workbench so it's easier for me to use it. I also made this, I haven't explained yet. It holds my carpenter square, my tape, a book for rafters and stair layout, some combination squares, a pencil sharpener, a couple pencils, and my framing square. And I also keep my torpedo level on there. And it just screwed into the grout on the wall. So it's perfect, so if I need a pencil, it's right there. And here's my workbench. I have all of my spray stuff and all of my stain and finishes down here, and I also have my storage box I made in a previous video, and I have it holding all of my stuff and sets and all other stuff. And I keep my brushes here in some brush cleaner. Here's some old finish I have, and here's some of the screws I keep there. And I also keep my tape, brush, and draw knife there, and zip ties, and also have my barbecue lighter to keep it warm down here. So here's my Craftsman Professional Series 14-inch bandsaw, and it has a 1.5 horsepower motor. And I also put this Kreg Precision bandsaw fence on here so I can make rip cuts accurately with the fence. I put it on a dolly so it's easier to move around, and I also have some scrap wood there for future projects. I have my dust collector there, so to get to the dust collector, all I have to do is move the bandsaw out and get the dust collector. And here's my miter saw. I made this stand for it so I can switch them, but I realized that I don't really want to do that because the planer is really heavy, and since this is about waist level, it's kind of hard to pick it up and put it on there. But I've noticed that it's much easier just plain wood at that level. And I have some saw blade storage on either side. I have these ones to hold some framing blades for my circular saw, and this side I have it for table saw blades. And so here's my rigid 12-inch miter saw. It has a laser on it, and it tilts to, it goes to 50 degrees each way, and it tilts one way, so it's not a dual bevel. And I keep my planer underneath. It's a Delta 13-inch 2-speed thickness planer, and this thing is on wheels too. So if I need to make a long cut, so say if I have like an 8-foot board, all I have to do is pull this out and make the cut, or pull it out to use the planer on the bottom shelf. Here's my Craftsman 15-inch drill press. 12-speed 5/8-inch chuck, and it's a 1 horsepower motor. Nothing really changed much with the drill press. I haven't moved it anywhere. I didn't make any modifications to it, but I plan on to in the future. I want to get a bigger drill press table and a mortising attachment that attaches right here, so I can do mortises and then get a tenon jig for my table saw to make mortise and tenon joints a lot easier. So that's basically it for the drill press. So here's my new joiner I got about a month ago. It's a Stelex 6-inch joiner with a 48-inch bed. It has a caster right here so you can move it around easy. And the power switch is right here, so it's real convenient. The fence has a 5-inch fence from bed to the top of the fence, and it can also tilt 45 either in or out. The outfield table has a little knob right here that I keep locked because you never want to move the outfeed table. The outfeed table should be in line with the cutter head when the cutter head is at top dead center. The chute for the dust is right here, and it also has a little lever right here to raise and lower this bed for your depth of cut. And it came with 2 push blocks, so when you're doing face jointing, it's much easier. You don't really have to use them when you're doing edge jointing if it's the right size and you feel comfortable. You might not be able to see this, but it has a little lever right here and a knob, so you push this in and turn it. So if you want to make a lighter pass. It also has this right here for if you want to do a rabbet. I never used it with a joiner, but you can if you want to with this model. And that's it for the joiner. So here's my new belt and disc sander. It's a Wen belt and disc sander. It has a 9-inch disc sander and a 6x48 belt sander. It's on a stand, so it's a floor model. I'm planning on putting it on a dolly so I can move it out to use the belt sander. I'm using the disc sander now. It's really great, it's really powerful, and it gives a really clean edge. So here's my big storage box that I made a long time ago, and next to it I have my clamps, right along that shelf, and I have some chisels there. One of the mallets I made so I don't damage my chisels, some hammers, a respirator, and other miscellaneous items. But in my storage box, I keep all of my power tools in here. So I have my nail guns, drills, I keep my chainsaw in here, and all of my power tools are in here locked up. I have my drywall squares there too, and my Swatchin cutting guide. And I also keep some of my specialty clamps, like my Bessie strap clamp, and some of my corner clamps. So I have all of my woodworking books right there that I refer to a lot. Some OSA books, bandsaw blades. In this box right here, I have some extra planer parts, and on top I have all of my plans and magazines for future projects and projects I built in the past. Well, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you liked it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. Be sure to check out my Instagram page, Luke Eggs Woodworking, and I'll see you guys next time.